What if the internet vanished? What if humans could breathe underwater? What if animals could talk? Get ready for 50 wild. What if questions that will challenge your imagination? Count your score. Let's begin. What if all electricity disappeared tomorrow? Modern life would shut down. What if humans could breathe underwater? Oceans would become homes. What if animals could talk? Society would change drastically. What if all borders disappeared? Global migration would increase. What if humans never needed food? Farming would collapse. What if money no longer existed? Trade systems would change. What if people stopped aging at 25? Population would rise. What if the oceans dried up? Climate would change drastically. What if humans could read minds? Privacy would disappear. What if the internet stopped forever? Communication would slow worldwide. What if plants disappeared? Oxygen levels would fall. What if humans could fly naturally? Air traffic would increase. What if the moon disappeared? Tides would change. What if everyone spoke one language? Travel would become easier. What if gravity disappeared for 10 seconds? Everyone would float. What if humans never slept? Brain health would suffer. What if all cars disappeared? Air pollution might drop. What if all insects disappeared? Food chains would be disrupted. What if robots did every job? Employment systems would change. What if all clocks stopped working? People would lose track of schedules. What if humans could change color like chameleons? Fashion industries would change. What if the sun became twice as hot? Earth would overheat. What if animals ruled the world? Human cities would change. What if everyone became invisible? Society would face chaos. What if humans lived 500 years? Population pressure would increase. What if all shadows disappeared? It would be harder to judge shapes and depth. What if everyone had super strength? Daily life would change. What if mirrors stopped reflecting? People couldn't see their reflections. What if there were no countries? Global governance would be needed. What if time stopped for 1 hour? Nothing would move. What if humans could live on Mars? Space travel would grow. What if rain never stopped? Flooding would increase. What if all ice melted? Sea levels would rise. What if rain fell upward? Water cycles would be disrupted. What if all paper disappeared? Digital devices would become more important. What if people never felt pain? Injuries would become more dangerous. What if every mountain became flat overnight? Landscapes would change. What if there were no night? Ecosystems would change. What if humans could glow in the dark? Streetlights would become less necessary. What if all volcanoes erupted together? Massive destruction would occur. What if all doors vanished? Privacy and security would be affected. What if all phones disappeared? Communication habits would change. What if no one needed oxygen? Space travel would be easier. What if all deserts became forests? Climate patterns would change. What if everyone shared one currency? Trade would simplify. What if all machines stopped working? Modern systems would fail. What if humans never got sick? Life expectancy would increase. What if all stars disappeared? The universe would go dark. What if Earth had 2 moons?
Tides would change.
What if everyone could understand every language instantly? Global communication would improve. How many did you get right? Comment your score below, challenge your friends, and subscribe for more quizzes.